Got to give the people what they want.
Well, Joe, you're here, so that's exactly what we're doing. We're live.
There we go. Excellent.
How are you, buddy?
Good, man. Real good.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm functional.
Yeah.
Got the dryer repaired. I had the guy
Wow.
in today repairing the dryer. Got the golf cart repaired. They delivered the golf cart back, so my children can terrorize the neighborhood on the golf cart. And down here in South Florida, people can drive golf carts on the street. So does the Grove have that?
Yeah, but it's a lot of them are plated. A lot of them have a tag on them now.
Well, you have to register it, but down here we don't have a tag. It's just a slip of paper.
I do see some people will kind of go down Main and park it right at the edge of the Grove, but I don't see a lot of people like wheeling in and doing donuts in like downtown Grove.
in
their unlicensed golf cart. Yeah, kind of reminding me of like high school hijinks at the. Well, never mind. But anyhow,
you're supposed to drive them on the streets down here in suburbia, but it's a little scary. When you're in a 40-mile zone and you're in a 25-mile-per-hour golf cart, it's a little bit scary to be on the streets. So we hold the edge. We have these big wide sidewalks down Old Cutler Road, and so we'll drive them on that. And then in our neighborhood, it's a community that's so we can drive all over the place here.
Yeah,
so
that's where I see them really useful in the neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's good for that. Well, we'll run to the store, we'll run to Starbucks, whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good. So, yeah. Anyway, so the golf cart's fixed, the dryer's fixed. My wife was hoping it wasn't fixable. She wanted a new one, so I'm glad it is fixed.
Is your college exchange student from Sweden in yet?
No. What are you fucking talking about? So we got a guest on the show today. My buddy Leo Kish from Cortex is going to be on.
Excellent.
To talk about their pretty groundbreaking content network concept, which I really love this project. They were one of the first interviews that I did for Mission DeFi. Was he and his partner on this, and they've been working on it a while. So I'm excited to see where they are, what's going on with it. And Leo's a really good guy out of Colorado. So I think Colorado. Pretty sure he's Colorado. Well, we'll ask him when he comes on. So we'll cover a couple of quick news items and then dive in. I have not even looked at a price today, Joe. What's going on? Tell me the news.
I think the stock market stuff was down about 1%. I thought Bitcoin was like 31 something.
It was, but now it's down to 36.94. So it's down about 3.72% on the day. Off the opening. We don't have openings, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I don't see anything dramatic there. Again, I see all these predictions all over the place, of course. About people calling for rallies now, and I'm sort of like, I don't. Again, if it's short term in my mind.
Yeah,
it's not something like buy it and forget it. But if I bought in the 50s, 40s, any place around here to me is a decent place to add.
Looks like we got a little support line building here.
Yeah, let me see what Kingfisher's showing while we talk. So I don't look at this as really anything other than kind of business as usual.
Yeah.
Let's see. You're either in the game to accumulate it and hold it, or you're trading it.
Yeah.
And if you're trading it, look, there's volatility. You want it.
When was our last buy the dip signal? It's been a while. Wait, what am I on here? 3s. Oh, 4. That's no good. I need 3. Let me move this 9 to a 3. This is material indicators by the dip MTF mean reversion indicator. I don't think there's been any sharp enough dips for Bitcoin to throw a signal though recently. Not since the last week or so. No.
Has ETH? Are you guys tracking ETH in that indicator?
Sure.
How's ETH been looking? Because there was some decent volatility.
Let's see what we got. Let's go to the 1 minute chart. And let's see if I got a 3 loaded here. No, what the fuck? Why did I blank out the 4s? There's 3. Okay. All right. So this is our mean reversion indicator. Let's see if we've had any signals in the last week or so. Of course, TradingView can't handle too much data, so you can't go back more than about a week half the time. But we'll see if we've had any signals. Doesn't look like it. I could look at the log.
What are those red dots there in the middle?
These.
Yeah.
So those are usually they haven't been very reliable. We don't actually use them for trading, but they have been at times on severe dumps, a dump indicator. So the idea behind them is they're supposed to be a dump indicator, but they're just not. They're not as accurate as the mean reversion part. So we don't actually use it very much. It looks like it's not gotten to 3 points off the mean in a while. I mean, back 5 or 6 days. Let me see how far back the TradingView lets me have the data. I'll tell you. But there we go. So we had a signal on the 27th, and that would have that turned about 1.65% profit in an hour and a half, and more if you stayed with it a little bit more. So hour and a half, 1.65% profit. So that's also, we also use that as a buy the dip indicator. Here's another one on the same day. And let's see, within 2 hours, 2.35% profit. So it's on the big coins, it does really well. It just doesn't throw as many signals as you get on the alts, you know? So here's another one also on the 27th. There were 3 signals in the same day, 3.94% in 1 hour and 49 minutes.
So you know what I like about this data is for, to you, but also listeners, is that not only in sort of like, as you talk about the alts, when this thing's firing a lot of signals and you can stack up, returns, do 16, 20 trades a day. But also if you're just like a Bitcoin believer or an ETH believer, this gives you the signal of when is the time to buy.
That's right.
If you're accumulating to your portfolio, not just trying to get that 1.5 point pop.
Yep. And historically this indicator outperforms a buy and hold if you're doing it as a buy the dip indicator. So yeah, we had a nice run of signals here for a while. I mean, this one, if you're day trading, this one got you 5.72% in an hour or so. So, it's a pretty good player. Like I said, it about 96% of the time it'll score between 1.25% to 2.5% that I conservatively bet on. But oftentimes you can see 5, 10, 15% gains in within 5 days, typically though within 3 to 4 hours. So
yeah, but that's I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, but even in just a matter of if you're just one of those hold it forever dudes.
Yeah, like if you're a true believer in like Phantom, right? Then you want to buy Phantom on every dip. This can be a great way to do it. Let's see here.
So the thing is, audience, instead of like just DCAing in at like 1 o'clock on
every
Monday,
Wednesday,
every week, this gets you the optimal buyback in point.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So if all of a sudden you're starting, instead of just your average random distribution buy point, you're kind of coming in 5-6 points below that. You add that to your return. I mean, that's over time, long-term portfolio compounding. I mean, that just crushes it.
Yeah. Nice Phantom one here.
Yeah. We should start tracking that.
5.16%. Yeah, no, it's good. And you're going to get more frequent trades on a project like Phantom than you would on Ethereum or Bitcoin usually. So yeah, it's fun.
You have enough data to run the indicator on Phantom?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Oh,
no, because I remember there was some issue when you were going from like Binance overseas to just the amount of pairs.
Yeah, but we can still run the data. Like, so, the prices are pretty maintained, especially for a buy the dip signal. Like you're close enough. And now TradingView has DEXs. So you can also run a DEX strategy on, say, Sushi or Trader Joe or whatever, because our indicator will work with any of them. It doesn't matter if it's on TradingView, the indicator will send the webhook signal to do the buy. So anyway,
Cool.
Real quick, a couple of news items. Aptos, which is the Facebook blockchain Diem. Although I think at one point I tweeted about them forking or basically cloning the platform, and evidently they'd put a lot of work in it. But they raised $200 million, and PayPal Ventures was one of the larger investments in it. That is a sizable chunk of cash. And yesterday when we were talking about staking, this is one I'm going to take a look at, Aptos, and see if there's going to be some staking opportunities to secure the chain. Because that kind of money coming in it came in March, but that kind of money coming in from a player like PayPal, there's probably a lot of potential upside on this thing. So really, and if I remember correctly, this was one where this was most of the team from the Facebook Diem team left to start this venture, but I'd have to take a deeper dive to remember for sure.
Was Diem their first shot at a cryptocurrency that kind of got shut down by Congress or whomever?
Exactly. Yep,
no.
That's exactly it. So
that's interesting. The PayPal angle too. That's
Think about that.
I mean, it looks to me like, I'm sure there's a partnership opportunity there back with Meta now at this point, let alone with every other group.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Are there any other platforms that PayPal integrates more with at this point?
I think PayPal's probably invested in a number of protocols, but the interesting thing about this one was, if I remember correctly, there was some level of layer of protection in the system to protect against hacking and to secure the network better. But I'll take a deeper dive into it because I am going to anyway, because I think this could be a good staking opportunity once they launch the chain. I don't even know. They may be launched already. Safe and scalable layer 1 blockchain with the reliability and security, faster transactions, lower fees. Andreessen Horowitz, Multicoin Cap, A16Z, Katie Hound, Three Arrows, Parify, and Coinbase Ventures, along with PayPal. That's pretty significant. This article is because the PayPal investment was just revealed. It wasn't revealed in the first announcement.
In fact, the Coinbase there too.
Yep. Yeah, this one
pretty interesting.
This one has some big potential. I'm sure it's going to be one that tries to do the regulatory compliant thing. So anyway,
it looks like it.
So Stellar's in bed with MoneyGram. Shocking, not. Which I don't really, I get it. You're kind of a has-been blockchain. You need some attention. Big company comes in, agrees to partner with you, so you take it. But at the end of the day, helping MoneyGram make more money and charge the same fees is not the right thing to do in the crypto space. That's not what we're supposed to be about. And MoneyGram's track record is that when they tried to use blockchain, they still charge the same fees. They don't take all the money they save and give it back to the migrant worker in California. They still take their big ass cut out of the person's salary. So look, I get it. It's all business. I just don't think blockchain should be in bed with MoneyGram. We're trying to replace MoneyGram. So anyway, let's see what else. Oh, stablecoin balances on exchanges are at an all-time high, Joe.
Wow. Ready to pounce.
Yeah. Everybody's hanging out, just waiting, sitting on the sidelines, not doing anything. That's why liquidity's dried up. My pals at Walken closed their $4.7 million round. Pretty excited about that. They're going to be launching beta here in the next week or two. And they are rolling, man. They are killing it. They've really done a beautiful job. Their team has built up a massive list. I think they're at like 80,000, 75,000 followers on Twitter. They are killing it. Have thousands of beta testers ready to roll out. People who have been using it in the private beta pretty extensively. I use it every day because I go walking with my wife. It's just I'm really excited about this project. So really excited to see what's going to happen with it.
Cool.
All right. So we have my friend
Hey.
Leo on the line.
Hey, Brad.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
Excellent, man. Excellent. So, Leo was one of my first interviews with his partner at Cortex, and he's come on board today to tell us what they've been up to, because I know they've been doing a lot. So, Leo, first,
Cool.
Thanks for joining us. This is my buddy Joe.
Hey,
you
Leo.
guys haven't met
Hey,
before.
Joe.
Hey, buddy.
Leo, why don't you start off? Aren't you in Colorado? Is that right?
I am in Colorado. Yeah.
I thought so. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, you and your partner, and then give us the rundown on what Cortex is, what people can do with it, and why it's exciting.
Yeah. So I have a really odd background, but it kind of fits for decentralized systems. I actually started in neuroscience and biomedical research back in the day. And I was working on Parkinson's disease and, very different kinds of networks, but definitely the brain is a kind of distributed network.
Yeah.
So went out of that and moved into, and I kind of figured out that I was doing all these recordings of, these huge data sets, and I didn't really know how to analyze them. So I went back and got a information systems degree. Worked in digital health for about 10 years on a variety of different projects. And in terms of like insurance and in terms of hospital networks and prescription management, wide variety of things, mostly in a kind of project management role.
Right.
And I'd done a lot of writing that kind of got me a lot of influencer status, I guess, in the digital health realm. And so it got me a lot of access to some pretty senior people, and I kind of built a reputation. And the one thing that became clear in talking to all these people, and the reason something that I even started early on, was that people don't own their information in healthcare. Individuals, right. There's no self-sovereign data in healthcare. Your data is distributed among a variety of applications, healthcare systems, you name it, and you have very little access to it. Everybody has their little patient portal that's hard to access. And if you go out of network, you don't have access. So anyways, the idea of self-sovereign data seems like it was really the missing link to kind of fix healthcare information in general. Of course, you want the information that's valid about, the physical human biological body to move with that person, right? Just
right.
Makes sense. That should be the hub of activity.
Yeah.
So when Bitcoin came around, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I wonder if, if you can kind of decentralize banking for, simple way to put it, how can you decentralize healthcare information, put around individuals? So I went to a bunch of Bitcoin meetups, met a lot of different people, and they all said, hey, you got to talk to Josh, the co-founder of Cortex, who was building with the same idea in mind, was also working for a digital health company. So over the years since then, we originally wrote a white paper back in 2015 and kind of did it as a side project, and then really started building with more full time in around 2019. And
this was still focused on healthcare data, human personal data.
We did a couple of projects around healthcare, and we met with some senior people like in 2018, but it really came down to the fact that, this is a corporate asset and we don't really want people to own it.
So you weren't going to get a lot of help from the existing
So we're going to
players.
the powers that be tend to kind of like the frameworks that brought them to power, right?
Sure.
So we kept building, and obviously this was kind of pre-Web3, but we definitely had a Web3 idea in mind that, this isn't just about an individual's healthcare data. This can be about any kind of data. So we've gone on to build out the platform. We raised some money last year and are getting ready to launch this summer. So we've really, I think, built out the first complete infrastructure for decentralized data. And to me, that's really what Web3 is.
Right.
It is about self-sovereign data. I mean, if you get right down to it, there is no Web3 without self-sovereign data. And I think we've built the infrastructure that actually makes that feasible for not just for power users, but for everyday users to be able to start publishing their own websites, their own notebooks, and really have that information owned solely by them. So there's quite a few nuances there that we can get into,
Sure.
for how that all works. But
yeah, so essentially, I mean, you call it the Web3 content network, but I mean, essentially, what you're providing to users is a form of a wallet that allows them to create and store content, information, tokens, NFTs in it, but also make it shareable, right? And you're also providing initially some tools for editing content, at least text-based content, right? Is that
so
is that a good way to
kind of
sum it
more
up?
how what it was last summer. It's actually evolved quite a bit, I think, in a way that's much more usable now. So we'll be
Nice.
releasing a web-based version first.
Okay.
I think that might be the first time we're mentioning that. So exclusive right here.
Nice.
And the testnet is going to be ready any day. So I'm looking forward to start publishing stuff. We actually released HMN.HMN domains, which are on Butterfly Protocol. It's another domain protocol, very similar to, but with some improvements, I think, over Unstoppable and Handshake and .eth, and actually has some .eth integration. So we're giving those away for free, and because they're on Polygon, they actually resolve cross-chain. But if you want a free NFT domain, you can go out to hmn.domains and grab one for free. They cost us like a penny each, so we can pretty much give them away.
Nice.
But you'll be able to then use that domain to build your own personal Web3 site very soon. That's
awesome. So essentially, like I snagged mine with my Twitter handle, which is how it's oriented right now, right?
Yep.
So you can use your Twitter handle, connect to Twitter, and then they'll give you the NFT that represents your .hmn domain. And then from there, utilizing the Cortex app, people will be able to start publishing, sharing information. And if I understand correctly, there will also be not only will it be public information, so your own website, but this is a connection that people can make to each other to share things privately as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if we want to go technical, we can kind of go into that a little bit, but yes, there's one component of what we're calling HD name, which is kind of the namespace for these domains. So the namespace ties, essentially a URL to a crypto address.
Okay.
So that's kind of where the wallet comes in. It won't really look like a wallet. It'll look really much more like a file structure.
Yep.
But on the back end, it is an HD hierarchical deterministic wallet on the back end. So when you look at a URL, it actually is within the Cortex app and within the Cortex network, it actually is a wallet address, very similar to like .eth, but you take that all the way down to the individual file within the website, say, as opposed to just the overall website.
Right. So you could have a path to it and share that with someone, and then give them access to the content that's in that path.
Right. And so then the blog post that you put up is also, every post that you do is also a crypto address.
Nice.
That's part of that infrastructure.
So starting off, essentially, it's a way for people to publish content, share content, whatever it may be, in an easy to use tool that allows it to be their content and their content only, right? It's not something that's going to be on a centralized server somewhere that somebody else owns. And that's really the whole idea behind it.
Yeah, it's all on IPFS, and it's only controlled by you, the end user, or the person with the private keys. But when we launched the network a little bit later, we have really, I think, a great model for publishers and users. So essentially, publishers will control what gets published on chain, so that you can. Maybe too deep of a rabbit hole to go down.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
but essentially, there's another part of this called HD index, which is data structure for efficient, verifiable key value and sequential lookups on IPFS. So it really makes kind of organizing the information on IPFS much more efficient, much more quick, and allows us to bundle all these commits. So say a publisher has 100,000 users who are all doing commits to that publisher. Those can all be bundled into one hash on chain that then becomes provable, and as a proof in time when that information was published. But it becomes very cost effective because it's just a single hash, and a publisher could have of course thousands of different users all doing commits that all just get published. How often you publish is going to be dependent on how much you stake on the network.
So do you envision that a publisher could essentially create an interface or dashboard to it that allows multiple users to post to it, and then people can come in and see content that way? Is that what I'm
so
hearing?
You could actually build like a Twitter on this. The idea is you can build a Twitter on this content network. So essentially, you as a publisher, that just becomes your feed. So depending on how often you want to publish, if you want to publish every minute, and again, that can be thousands of commits that can be put into that publication on chain. It's just the on-chain information. A lot of this kind of happens on the back end and can actually happen a little bit independently of what happens on chain. But if you want kind of provability in time, that happens on chain. But then if it works well with different kinds of publishing mechanisms. So if you're at Twitter, then you'd want to stake a lot and publish, every minute, every second even. But if you're a periodical or a journal, maybe you only publish once a month.
Right.
You're very tightly controlled. Or if you're a blogger, you publish once a week or a few times a week. So it's really up to the publisher, and anybody can be a publisher.
Right. So anybody could come in here and create a conglomerate, or not a conglomerate, but maybe a cooperative of people that are publishing together. Would the people that are publishing to a publisher, would what they publish be available in their own path or HMN domain as well as in the publisher's domain, or how would that work?
Yes, it'll be available in their domain as well. But it matters. It becomes kind of what's findable and what's like. If you want to become part of a publisher's feed on chain, then you'd want to publish through them. Got
it. So now, is that all things that you guys are building and working on now? I'm assuming the initial release of this is, hey, you're going to have this view now that it's web-based, and people will be able to actually write content and publish it and get people to come see it on their domain. Is it kind of the initial launch of this thing?
Yep. Yeah. So essentially, we're working on what we're calling the press nodes. And so those will be the initial release. So essentially, these will become kind of, very much like Ethereum or any other kind of proof of stake network. So these will be the kind of nodes that operate and include the HD names, the namespace, and HD data, which kind of ties everything to IPFS, and will allow you to publish. And this, you can publish through the network, and it doesn't have to be on chain.
Okay.
It's a modified sparse Merkle tree, which is kind of like a combination between a sparse Merkle tree and a binary search tree for those that are into that kind of thing. So it's a unique kind of index that we're operating that kind of exists independently of any chain, that just becomes the proof of what's part of that kind of content state at that moment.
So you guys are kind of a chain within a chain in terms of the fact that you're going to have all these nodes that are functioning, that are sharing data, telling people where things are, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of it's a eventual consistency model.
Right.
So a lot of this stuff can happen off chain. But again, if you want to, it's kind of like it just makes it easier to find the information and timestamp it when things get published on chain.
Cool. If you were pitching this to, say, my mother, I guess what I'm trying to get as is what are the benefits to an end user to coming to using Cortex as their publishing platform? What would you say to people that are saying, "Hey, this sounds kind of cool"? What would you say the benefits are?
Well, I'd say if you look at all the problems, I think with Web 2, that you really don't, not only do you not control your own content, but you don't really control how you're fed content.
Right.
This allows you to have control over your information. So your Twitter feed becomes yours to do with that as you please. It can't be deleted by somebody else. It can't be shut off by anybody else. Of course, a publisher can, they have a relationship with their users, which I think is kind of nice. So a publisher can decide what they want to publish or not. But again, anybody can be a publisher.
Right.
So it's a nice middle ground, I think, for, regulation and, but also ultimately gives the users control of their own information.
Essentially, the user could publish their information for themselves on their, for lack of a better word, feed, but they can also publish it to a publisher like a Twitter or somebody else and have that content be available for all of the people that participate in the publisher's environment.
Exactly. And then also beyond that, so you're public and you have that public information, but then you also have your private networks and your private groups, and all that information that you share within those networks is also owned by you. Of course, it's shared with other people,
right?
But it's only shared with those people. And then you can also have your own private, stuff that you don't share with anybody.
Right.
So it kind of merges all those worlds together. Now we have to keep all those worlds separate.
Right.
We have to have our Twitter feed. We have to have our private notebook, and maybe that's even a SaaS model. And if it's a SaaS model, maybe it's being used to feed us ads or, whatever. What we're aiming for is something that really becomes kind of algorithm proof.
Right.
You can take more control over what algorithms you use to get the information that you want. And if you want to share it publicly, then that information can be used to feed you ads or whatever. But it becomes much more on your terms, which I think is really what we're after in Web3.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in terms of, will I be able in some way to subscribe to your content that you make public in my interface?
Oh yeah. So another cool aspect of this is so you can, instead of like having a blog and having comments and everybody goes and kind of sees all the comments, the way that you link to things kind of become like, if you link to something, it's almost like a comment. So if you post something that links to something else and it's public, you can see that in the network. And so everything that's kind of linking to the initial content becomes kind of a comment, but then you can decide which comments you want to see. You can decide, nice. Hey, I want to see the comments that are from Brad and my circle of friends, or maybe I want to see, I also, because there's topics in this, like when you post things, you can include topics. You can choose to see just people who are posting about this specific topic at this point in time. So there's a lot of ways you can kind of filter information.
That's very cool. Do you envision a search engine on top of all this content?
Yeah, I think it is really kind of rebuilding the web from the ground up, but with users and as the foundation.
Yeah.
User data is the foundation that belongs to users.
And from the perspective of kind of scaling it, like if you guys hit it really big, let's say there's 20 million users on your system in a couple of years. What do you guys have to do to make sure, performance stays that way? You're on Polygon, right? To start?
We're on Polygon to start, but the domains resolve right now cross-chain on Ethereum and Polygon.
Okay.
But Butterfly also just did a partnership agreement with Aleph Zero, if you're familiar with them. does a private smart contracts for enterprise use cases.
Right.
So, and that's not even an EVM compatible machine, but we'll be moving over to those as well.
Awesome.
So really the network kind of exists independently of any chain and is built cross chain from the ground up.
Very nice. Very nice. Is there something you can show us if you shared screen to let people get a sense of what the experience would be like? Or are you not showing yet?
Not showing that. Yeah, we don't have, we'll have demos literally any day here with
Cool.
that we'll be releasing some videos and things. I mean, I could show kind of just the like very simple architecture of the network. Maybe.
Yeah, whatever you like. I mean, if you think it's valuable, otherwise it's not important. We can wait for the demos to come out.
Let me see what I can share. Can I share just one window? Yeah, it's not letting me.
Oh, hold on.
There's a window. There's a window. Here we go.
Got it.
Let's see. I don't know if you're seeing that.
No, we're not. Did you go to the share button at the bottom of the page?
I did, and then share screen, and then it doesn't, like I
gonna
go to
stop my
window
screen.
and then it doesn't want to pick up.
Huh.
I can pick out the window that it's on, but the preview doesn't show up for some reason.
That's weird. All right. Well, StreamYard's having an issue, I guess. We'll do it another time, man, when you guys are fully launched. So you said test nets any day.
Yep.
And
just kind of getting all the code production, the final touches, but everything is pretty much ready to go.
Nice. And kind of, mainstream, everybody can climb in and start creating stuff. What's your kind of timeline for that?
I will be doing private beta, also within the next couple of weeks.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So you guys aren't far off from just letting this go.
No. And I should say that, with the Aleph Zero, there's two groups that we're working with. So we're starting to work with artists and creators that, want to publish their art. And again, it's kind of like a Git repository. You can put anything into this framework. It's really, a lot of it's based on Git. So,
oh, nice.
So you can really use any kind of media. It's mostly going to be static pages at first,
right.
But we have some cool things, I think, to start moving, more to a Web 2 like experience in Web 3 as well. So the content creators, individuals, but then on the other side, we have some really cool partnerships that we'll be talking about this summer on the enterprise side.
Very nice.
Because of the privacy aspects, we've got some nice features with some newer signing mechanisms that help, keep private. Even though you can reach consensus on who's signing, you don't necessarily need to know who's signed.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the idea would be is enterprises could create their own private communication channels and networks and content sharing internally for their organization. And then I would assume potentially build on top of it. Will there be developers will be able to create tools around it?
Yeah. It's just a kind of a framework for content provability and publication.
Nice.
So, if the board makes a decision, you don't necessarily want to know how everybody's voted, but that once that's published, this is, signed, sealed, and published.
Yeah, nice.
Like quite literally by that organization.
That's very cool because it's verifiable. I love that. That's really cool. Cool. Then from the perspective of, you mentioned people staking the token on the network in order to, it's kind of like, it's operating kind of like a utility to let people be able to publish. Is that right? So the average person would stake some?
Yeah, it definitely is very similar to any other kind of proof of stake network. So you can kind of think of the publishers as miners,
right?
So in a proof of stake system. I'll put it that way.
Okay. And then an individual user, would they also stake in order to publish, or would they just be able to use it?
Anybody who is going to be a publisher would have to have a .crtx domain and would have to stake to actually do the publish. And there'll be a small fee for the actual on-chain publishing.
So if I, as a user, wanted to publish some blog posts and publish, episodes of the podcast, whatever, I would need to stake and pay a small fee to be able to be a publisher in the network.
Right.
Cool.
But as a publisher in the network, you can also start collecting commits from other users as well. And how you operate your own network within that is up to you. It's up to between you and your users.
So you theoretically could build an entire social network within this framework, build a publishing network. You could build a Twitter, you could build a Medium, you could build anything you wanted around particular communities, around particular topics, verticals, etc., all using this platform.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. That sounds really good.
It's really awesome. We're so excited.
That's very cool. Joe, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Hey, Leo, what I thought's really interesting, kind of been thinking about, obviously the individual privacy information with the internet for a number of years, and how individuals monetize it. And then, you kind of hit some sweet spots for me with your healthcare descriptions. I don't know if you ever came across EncryptGen, Tokens DNA, but they have been around for about 5 years, and their whole mission is for the DNA data to stay private to the individual, not to be given away like with 23andMe and others.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer, and I still haven't done 23andMe because and I'm not a conspiracist, but I know how the data is being used.
Sure, that's their profit model.
That's the whole model there, and so I think what I was really curious about in my mind, and there's no answer probably what I'm going to say, is that I'm wondering with like those types of decentralized, say, data models, like, and Brad, you could probably speak to this too, actually, like EncryptGen, how that would layer better on top of your app, your chain, versus what they're doing. Because if you're laying these sort of distributed privacy solutions out there on existing technology, let's say, but then instead you deploy it on a platform that's built for that type of application, that might have some pretty interesting takeaways there.
Do you envision that this could eventually be utilized for personal healthcare data as well?
Sure, absolutely. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's really, again, it's anything you can put in a Git repository.
Nice.
It's pretty much anything. So
nice.
Yeah, you can publish or keep private just about anything you want. I think that I haven't tracked the DNA data lately. I think the difficulty that I've always seen, and I think people have probably cracked this by now, but even like a 100 base pair section of your DNA is kind of a fingerprint. So keeping that data private, it's tough. It's tough. Like even if you wanted to share like one gene for a study, like at the end of the day, they can probably figure out that it's you, or if they have somebody else's DNA. So it's all, we're all cousins.
Yeah.
On some level. So
exactly.
Well, the thing I always remember that they say that like 2/3 of our DNA is the same as the earthworm.
Yeah.
So if you go up the evolutionary, I guess, development pathway, and you get down to here, the amounts of different, because we did a lot between like exome sequencing versus whole genome sequencing. And I remember that the data differentials were just so small, the deltas, that you really could back it out, which is a common thing. Because, like you talk about 23andMe, is that what's to stop you from taking a, whatever you submit, let's say it's hair or saliva or for your sequence, take a piece, one of strands of Brad's hair, let's say, or and sequence that, or for a parent to do a relative, or a college mate to do a college mate, and then all of a sudden you have their DNA sequence. So then you can back out to all kinds of different areas. But I think with if you could crack all those issues, of course, I think when you look at the personalized healthcare market, which is more of, kind of bespoke drugs for based upon your gene sequences or your data. That's like, I think, a $30 trillion market or something by 2050, according to people like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, those types of guys. So this is, healthcare in your platform could, it could be
absolutely.
your foundation of all of that, I guess is what I'm getting to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Yeah, we have some good. We still have some very good tie-ins there. So
that's cool.
I think the issue still goes back to, and genomics is a great area actually, because it really is kind of individual centric. By its nature. It's, most healthcare institutions are not doing genetic sequencing in any meaningful way,
right?
For diagnosis or treatment or anything else.
Right.
So it really is kind of like, if you want to get your sequence, then it's really up to you as the user. So I think I actually co-wrote a paper with Eric Topol back in 2015. I think it was one of the first bits on using blockchain distributed technologies for healthcare. It was published in Nature Biotech back in September of 2015. So all of that's still relevant. The thing we've just been working on is, it's not easy to get all the components right, which I think is what you're driving at, Cho. Like, Ethereum's not really built for this. You can't pay $20 to do a database update. Just
on a good day.
On a good day, yeah.
Exactly.
It just doesn't work. So, you need to make the economics work for data use cases to really use something as a database and make it all the information findable and usable in the way that we're used to using it. That we expect databases to operate. So it's not been an easy nut to crack, but we're excited that, we're pretty much there. It's all working.
Well, I'm excited you guys are so far along, man. That's awesome. Really, really fired up. How can people get involved? You guys have a growing community. I know that, which is engaged. I see it in Telegram all the time. They can visit the website, crtx.app. Are you guys looking for any help right now from the community, volunteers, et cetera, for specific things?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've been recruiting a lot of people that are influential in the artist and NFT community. So there's been some great NFT use cases for artists. People could build their own distributed OpenSea on this. And we're taking a kind of bilateral approach with both content creators and with enterprise. So got some really cool use cases around buildings and for building ownership credentials for real life objects in general. I think the framework is great for real world use cases. I always make the argument that the metaverse is not some alternative reality. Like, if you go to and I actually wrote about this on VentureBeat like a week ago. The metaverse actually means about, a meta means about something, right? So the metaverse to me is a new layer that's about our existing reality. So a lot of the use cases that we're working on in enterprise are kind of for mapping out the kind of existing assets.
Makes sense.
Because this hierarchical model makes it really easy to model real world things and three-dimensional space, put it that way.
That's very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm really excited, man, because I think that I think one of the powerful things about this is the flexibility of it, right? The idea that I, as an individual, can own my data and what I publish and decide who sees it and who doesn't. At the same time, the fact that this can be parlayed into larger scale things for enterprises, communications, whatever it might be, that's all very exciting. That's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things real quick is you just hit on something. You both said something. Let's say you were an artist and created some work of art that's, or a piece of furniture or an outfit or a painting or anything. And then in this platform, it's, because we talk a lot about digital rights management and different things like that. It sounds like to me, then as that real world object deploys into, say, whatever metaverse or different metaverses, that you still have the digital rights to it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think the hardest part with all that, I mean, it's easy to create something now that's digital and unique in time and kind of digital space, I guess. The hard part is tying it to the legal system. And making the what happens in the metaverse be what's the word?
Jurisdiction.
Yeah, having the same jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Right.
There's some great projects working on that. Materium, Vinay Gupta is one of them.
Wow.
That I think they're pretty close to cracking that nut. They're selling Stradivarius NFTs for Stradivarius violins and
nice
bars of gold, and they've really spent a couple of years getting the legal requirements set up to handle NFTs, so that the ownership of the physical thing tracks with the ownership of the NFT.
That's very cool. We'll have to check them out.
Yeah, what was the name of that again?
Materium, like Ethereum, but with matter instead of ether.
That's pretty cool.
That's great.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Well, Leo, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited about you getting close here. And please keep us up to date. We'll make sure and let everybody know when people can start playing with it.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good one.
Enjoyed it.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. That looks pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, it's kind of like you see, say the Moneros of the world and everybody else kind of developing an anonymous currency, or at least branding it that way.
Right.
To get around all the problems of lack of privacy and things like that, surveillance, whatever you want to call it. It's interesting to see someone come at it again from a perspective of, it's not just about the currency, it's about the platform.
Yeah.
And if you could then run the platform to where it becomes the privacy, or, when I say anonymizer, sometimes people take that to be a negative thing. I just mean more of like maintaining your privacy, just like you don't leave your front door open to your house all day.
Yeah.
People walk by, you keep your door closed till somebody knocks.
Yep.
Well, that's what I really mean. So it seems to me if you have the foundation has standards and protocols for that, and then you start laying other things on top, it seems to me like you're going to get some pretty sophisticated solutions there with the kind of redundancies, or I don't know, multipliers on both sides.
Yeah. Look, I think there's incredible power and potential in this thing, and I'm really I'm hopeful for the approach of just really simple blog type content creation being a great hook for people, because the problem with things like this is that they're so powerful, and the potential to build all kinds of things is so powerful that it often gets lost on kind of the average user. So I'm really hopeful that the initial launch of this thing is something where you can just easily publish content. Will get people start thinking about what's possible, because ultimately for them to succeed, it's about getting enough users using it on a daily basis, signing up some publications or other projects that want to create their own social networks or whatever. But having kind of that immediate use case that people can go, oh, this is great because I can share this with my friends or whomever. I think that's going to be really important for them.
Well, think about it this way. I mean, every time you use any apps, of course, you're sharing data everywhere. I mean, I'm always on my permissions, but think about like your kids and, family members and their movements and things like that, where you want to be on the mapping and sort of the sharing platforms, the Life 360s and things like that.
Right.
Where you can see where they are, but you also want to ensure that data is private.
Absolutely.
So to me, if you could deploy apps like that, where you have protected classes of data, like, minor children data, let's say, in healthcare data, areas where that stuff is, super just protected, that could add a whole nother ability where, like, I think you talked about those content networks a bit, where, you have these close networks where maybe only, the 2 or 3 people can see that location data. Maybe the Google servers, assuming you're using Google Maps, don't even see it,
right,
or know who it is. It
Yep.
seems to be like some pretty interesting angles here where it could be used in killer apps that everybody would get.
Totally
quick.
agree. Yeah.
So how'd you meet Leo?
Don't remember.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was on their website. They look pretty cool, but they kind of got to upgrade their advisor page. There's a weak player on there.
Is there? They got problems over there. Yeah.
Yeah, they got a real weak player on the
Yeah,
advisor page.
what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
But hey, man, you're on the same page with Eric Topol. That's pretty cool.
You can't have perfection, Yeah,
I remember reading a lot of his stuff when after reading David's book, Who Owns You? That genetics case with the Supreme Court over who owns the DNA sequences. I get Myriad Genetics. That's right.
Yeah.
And Topol was popping up. I think Leo said like 2014, 15, which sounds about right. So you saw him in all the stuff, whether it was Shivome or Encryption or Luna or Nebula, all those 2018 DNA plays. You always saw Topol as content for those plays.
Sure.
So hey, man, you're a star now.
Yeah, well,
you're up there in the, you're a pinup boy in the personalized medicine space.
When do the tokens hit my wallet?
Wait, this is a DeFi lunch show, so it would be our wallets.
Oh, would it now?
It just happened with you, man.
Yeah, I know. It's all good.
Unless it turns into something real, then of course I'll be banging down your door. But
no, look, I am constantly, I'm a big believer. Brad Felt, venture capitalist I've worked with in the past. They have this. I can't remember the name they use for it, but the idea is that the more you put out there to help others, the more that comes back as an investor or whatever you're doing. So I work real hard to try to help, projects just succeed. And there will be opportunities later that come from that eventually. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the people you're trying to help either. So, and that's worked really well for Brad Felt and Foundry Ventures. So it's just kind of my approach. Plus, I think it's in my best interest to grow all of DeFi, and I think people like Leo are doing a good job for building things that can help with kind of the fundamental problems we have in society. So, anyway,
it seems like an infrastructure play too.
Yeah, there is a play. There is a play there, kind of this wiring underneath that is going to allow all kinds of things to connect to this, and that's actually the toughest thing about the position they're in, right? Because there is that play that you just mentioned, Joe, is this can be a big infrastructure piece in all of DeFi and crypto and web, but how do you gather enough users and gather enough partners around some part of that model to make it so that people see what it can be, what you were just talking about being an infrastructure play. So anyway, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, buddy, I'm out of here. Hey, folks, thank you so much for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. We appreciate you. We love you. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts if you're listening on the podcast. Subscribe, click the little bell, give us a thumbs up, leave your comments on YouTube and other platforms. We really appreciate you being here. And if you have any thoughts, ideas, projects, cool ones like Cortex that we should be looking at or talking to, please don't hesitate to message me at B05Crypto on Telegram and Twitter, and B05Crypto #2143 on Discord. We hope you have a great day. Joe, have a great afternoon.
Hey, thanks, buddy. And thanks everyone for listening. And I will talk to you soon, Brad.